Derek Lewis is the all-time knockout king. He has more knockouts than anybody in the history of the UFC. He's also 40 years old. So the question becomes, does he still have some juice left, or is he going to fall to the much taller, much younger, just as powerful Taliesin Teixeira? My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Nashville fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before we jump in, let me just say thank you. I have been in Las Vegas the last couple of days. My wife and I went out to Vegas for UFC 317. We ended up flying back on Saturday morning. We will be watching the fights here tonight. I just got home about 20 minutes ago, and I sat down to film this video. And that's for a few reasons. One, I have family in town. In order for us to go to Vegas, I needed to fly some people in to watch the kids. So my family's in town. I need to spend some time with the family. So tomorrow, Sunday, they will get my undivided attention, so I'm not filming a video exactly like this one first thing in the morning. And two, I needed to come out here and just say thank you. I met close to 100 people over the last few days that came up to me, came up to my wife, said they loved the show, appreciated what Jacob and I do. And it was just awesome. It was awesome to meet you. Some of you I've met before. Some of you I've met for the first time. And it was just awesome to meet everybody. And it's a nice reminder to me how cool the community actually is. Because this isn't the most forgiving environment. This isn't the most understanding environment. And if I sit here and I'm like, hey, I think O'Bon Elliott should win this fight, and then he loses a fight that nobody on this world thought he was going to lose, and then I'm the worst guy in the world and I should jump headfirst into traffic. But then in real life, everybody's nice and everybody's cool and everybody says hello. So genuinely appreciate a bunch of Angelos while walking around the airport. So thank you everybody who came up. I appreciate every last one of you. You are all making this much more enjoyable. The fact that the community is this cool, and the fact that I got to meet so many people, and the fact that the content seems to be resonating with people just gives you the energy to continue to do it. So thank you genuinely to every single person. Thanks for being cool to the wife too. This was her first like real UFC experience. And you know, first of all, signed an autograph this weekend, made her watch. I said, listen, are you fucking paying attention to what's happening right now? Maybe treat me with a little respect at home. And she's laying on the couch, so I hope she doesn't hear this. But you know, fix me a sandwich. Look, people like me. You should too. Guys, let's go ahead and break down this card. Opening up the UFC Nashville fight card looks to be Mike Davis versus Mitch Ramirez. This fight order's all out of whack. This is going to be a very different fight order than what I've got here, but this is how Tapology has it listed, so this is how we're going to roll with it. And we got Mike Davis, and if you remember, Mike Davis is coming off that catastrophe, the atrocity, the ridiculous loss to Faraz Ziam where he was pulling guard like a full-blown jiu-jitsu nerd. But I'm going to do this breakdown like that fight didn't exist. Okay, he had quite a few fights before that, and that was the first time we've seen him act like an absolute nerd. So we're going to pretend that didn't exist, and it was a one-off. Normally, Mike Davis is fast, he's athletic, he's a good striker, he's got power, he's got great wrestling, and we did know he had good jiu-jitsu. I just didn't think he'd be scooting his ass across the mat like a snail to try to get it there. He's taking on Mitch Ramirez. Mitch Ramirez is a decent wrestler himself. He's got good striking. He throws a ton of leg kicks. He uses those leg kicks to set up some takedowns. When he gets fights to the ground, he's looking for control more than he is for a finish, but he does have plenty of power both on the feet and if he's on the ground on top. Overall, he's a well-rounded guy. He is pretty big inside this cage. He looked massive in his last fight. So far, though, his only two cracks at UFC glory have not worked, but they were against Carlos Prates on the Contender Series and then Thiago Moises on short notice. So Mitch Ramirez has not had an easy path to UFC victory. I would like to assume that Mike Davis is guard-pulling strategy in that last fight or days of the past. I would like to assume that we will never see that disgustingness again because this is a fist fight. This is MMA. Pulling guard in this sport as a game plan A is insane. Now, if you're getting the piss beaten out of you and you're a phenomenal grappler and you're in the third round, the fifth round, whatever it is, and you need to pull guard to try to give yourself the best chance to win, fine. But if your first thing is like, let me pull some guard, that's bad. Mike Davis went from an insanely talented prospect to being dragged online, and it's not because he lost. It's because he was pulling guard, and it's how he lost. But I think he got it out of his system. Right? It's like hooking up with a fat chick. He did it. He got it out of his system. Like, all right, I need it. I'm better now. What was I thinking? So I think he wins this fight. I've seen him wrestle. I know he can wrestle. It exists. So hopefully in this fight, he actually wrestles. He also has decent striking. Mitch is pretty physically large. I know the stats will show that Mike Davis is tall here, but if you go watch Mitch's previous fights, like he just seems huge inside that cage. I'm going to pick Mike Davis here. That last fight was a little concerning, and I almost like that his odds are too far gone to do anything with. Let's just watch this fight, make sure he doesn't pull guard, and then we can address him in the next one. Then we have Nate Landwehr taking on Morgan Charriere. This has potential to be another spectacular fight because Nate Landwehr gets after it, and Morgan has the ability to get after it. Nate Landwehr's a wild man, as we know. He's going to run forward. He's going to look for a finish at all costs. He does have some talent. He's not like the most talented guy, but he'll come forward. He's got okay power, and he will put himself into harm's way, basically for no reason other than our entertainment. But we're thankful because this guy is fun to watch. His willingness to engage is enough to break a lot of people, and he's a hard guy to get out of there, even though he did just get out of there by the Korean Superboy. He's taking on French Morgan Charriere. What did we say about the French? After Umar Sy's last performance, what do we say? We don't bet on the French. They're pussies. We don't do it. Listen, if you're French and you're watching this, I apologize. I'm sorry for being so vulgar and so brash. Take it up with Umar Sy. Take it up with William Gomez. These are people that were tremendous favorites, and they were spectacular athletes and great fighters who actually didn't fight. They refused to fight. Now, Morgan does seem to be different. Morgan doesn't seem to be a hang out on the outside staring contest kind of guy. So for that reason, I'm going to break this down as if he is not a typical French soft Umar Sy style pussy. Okay? I've seen Morgan get after it with Chepe, so I know he's got it in him. Morgan is an explosive striker. He's light on his feet. He stalks his opponents. He leaps in the punches. He will work for control. He does a pretty good job being either all the way in or all the way out. When he is in, he wants to tie up so he can knee. He can control the head. When he's out, he'll stalk you, and then he will leap into the punches. He's got solid takedown defense. He's got a few takedowns of his own. He's pretty good everywhere. He's got fantastic cardio. He is coming off that loss, though, to little itty-bitty Nathaniel Wood, which is a little concerning because teeny-weeny Nathaniel Wood dropped Morgan in that fight. And if I didn't see that little tiny miniature Nathaniel Wood dropped Morgan Charriere, I would have every dollar I have ever come across in my entire life on Morgan in this fight because Morgan is the better fighter. He is just straight up the better fighter here. He's a better athlete. He's a better fighter. He's better at wrestling. He's better at striking. He's faster. He's cleaner. He's more powerful. Like, he's better everywhere. But now I have these, whether it's illogical or not, I have these concerns about Morgan's chin because Nathaniel Wood dropped him. Nathaniel Wood's a good striker. Nathaniel Wood's powerful. So maybe it's nothing. Like, Morgan Charriere is at like very enticing odds here because I do think he's just quite literally better than Nate Landwehr everywhere. But Nate is tough. He's gritty. He is going to grind. Morgan is going to be the pick. I think he actually is okay to bet on. And if he's not, then we will, you guys know what the French Revolution is. If Morgan loses this fight, then we will all get together, all of us, and we're going to invade France and just start smacking the shit out of people because if Morgan can't win this fight, and Umar Sy couldn't win that fight, and William Gomez couldn't win his fight against Hyder, we're done. We're done with the French. We are done. Goodbye. Let's go find a La Madeleine. Shut that place down. We are done. We're done. We're done with you. We're done. We should be good, though. There's a lot of pressure for Morgan. Unlike the unreliable French, we have some very reliable tools. One of them is the Fight Simulator. I have personally been using the Fight Simulator to absolutely crush Prize Picks and Underdog fantasy entries. That's actually not what it's designed for. It's designed to simulate fights 100,000 times. It gives you those outputs, and then it uses all of the data to help build DraftKings fantasy lineups. But what we did is we added some features and enhancements so that during those 100,000 simulations, we have it showing you how many strikes fighters are landing in the simulations, how many takedowns they're getting in the simulations, who's winning, how many Prize Picks fantasy points, Underdog fantasy points, FanDuel fantasy points. We have it bringing back all that information from those 100,000 simulations so that you can use the individual bits for whatever you want. Like I said, I'm using it for Prize Picks and Underdogs. If you want to use it for DraftKings, great. If you want to use it for bets, that's great too. But the Fight Simulator is available right now. It is an unbelievable tool. There's only 2 of them in this space. Maybe there's more, but there's only 2 that matter. Ours, which is included in the $10 membership, and then SaberSim. You can go, I encourage you to pause this video, go to Saberson, check out how much it costs, and then when you realize it's $300, you'll come back and be like, holy fuck, Angelo really is doing some shit. Check out the Fight Simulator. It's included in everything that we do. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. You unlock it instantly, not just for UFC Nashville, but UFC 318, which is the next fight card after that. And then we had a couple of really solid fight nights. Then we have Junior Tafa taking on Tokkos. Junior Tafa is supposed to be a nasty kickboxer. He's got good power, good footwork, a willingness to engage. I say supposed to be because we haven't quite seen that yet, right? We've seen some finishes out of him, like his last fight against whoever the hell Sean Sharaf is. But the reality is Junior Tafa is a good kickboxer. Junior Tafa is the younger brother of Justin Tafa, but he is like skinny and tall instead of short and thick, and his takedown defense is an atrocity. It's awful. But that was at heavyweight. He is now at light heavyweight. I don't know what that's going to look like, but we'll talk about it in a second. He's taking on Tokkos. Tucos. His real name is George. I don't know how the hell you get from George to Tuco, but he did. He's a grappler at his core. He has expanded those skills, but while he is a grappler, instead of forcing fights to the ground, he likes to wait. He waits for you to commit. He waits for you to throw a little too much, and then he will lower his level, try to shoot under it. If he gets a takedown, he's Bilal Muhammad-esque on top, where he's got a ton of control and a ton of pressure, but he's not necessarily finding finishes. He's got good cardio, not a lot of power, but he's got a pretty straightforward game plan. It has worked for him on the regional scene. We haven't seen that success just yet here in the UFC. He is coming off that loss to Navajo Sterling, but he had 3 takedowns against somebody who was supposed to be the next big thing out of city kickboxing. When I am able to watch these fights, right? When I can watch these fights in front of a computer, I take notes. I will still do tape study, but I like to remember what I felt in that moment, right? Tape study is different. It matters, it's important, it's very helpful, but it's different because you know the outcome when you're watching the fight. So you might watch it with sort of a different skew. But when I'm watching the fights live, I obviously don't know the outcome, so I like to type up how I'm feeling, how the fight's going. And I happened to watch Justin Junior Tafa's fight live last time in front of my computer. I took notes, and my notes said, sucks and out of shape. That's what my notes said. Sucks and out of shape. That's all I wrote. So then I went back and I watched the fight, and it's like, yeah, this dude does suck and he is out of shape. Now, I don't know if he sucks any less going into this fight, but I do know he did a couple of sit-ups and ran around the block more than once because he always down to 205 from heavyweight. And I'm surprised that Tafa's the favorite here. These odds also seem to be widening, and I get that he's a good striker, but his takedown defense kind of sucks. Tuco is tough as hell. My notes from his last fight were about how tough he was. So I expect Tuco is going to get tagged up on the feet, but he'll be tough enough to survive. I think he will get it to the ground, and I think he can have some success there. So I'm going to lean on Tucos here, but under no circumstances, not these or any other circumstances, so you, your mother, your sister, your cousin, your neighbor, nobody should be betting on low-level. I'm going to call this a heavyweight fight. It's a light heavyweight fight, same shit. Nobody should be betting on these low-level fights. Don't do it. I get Tucos is a dog, and I just picked him, and people love placing plus money bets on dogs. But, like, this is low level. And Junior Tafa lost to Muhammad Usman bad. The guy sucks. Tuco doesn't have a win in the UFC. Like, he just changed weight classes. There's so many random circumstances here. Just don't, guys, you don't have to bet on it. There's a ton of good betting spots. And this might be one of them. Even though he's coming off back-to-back finish losses, we have Vitor Petrino taking on Austen Lane. We just talked about Junior Tafa's fat ass going down the light heavyweight. Now we got Vitor Petrino bulking up, going to heavyweight. He is moving up to heavyweight, and he's fighting one of the bigger heavyweights on the roster in that heavyweight debut. Vitor Petrino, as we all know, is a powerful guy. He's got a decent left hook. He's a dangerous striker. He's got good grappling as well. He has 16 takedowns in the UFC. His takedown defense is just okay, but he does a really nice job working his way up and avoiding any danger in those scrambles. He's pretty green. He's still evolving as a fighter. He's learning more and more every time he steps into the cage. Unfortunately, though, he's learning at the expense of his consciousness because he's coming off 2 finished losses in a row. The most recent one was a knockout loss to Dustin Jacoby. In fairness, he was winning that fight. He was dominating that fight. It was very clearly his fight to win. And then he came rushing in a little sloppy, and Dustin caught him on the way in. He's taking on Austen Lane. Massive 6'6" Austen Lane. He's a former NFL player. He converted over to MMA about 10, 11 years ago. And he's large, he's powerful, he's athletic, and he's competed at the highest level, obviously, in a couple of different sports. He likes to jump in. He's got a flurry of strikes, and then he'll jump back out. For the most part, though, he is a grappler. He likes to use that size, that athleticism, kind of lean on you, slow the pace, drag you to the ground where he can. He's coming off that knockout loss to Mario Pinto, where we were reminded size doesn't matter. Size does not matter. You could be big as shit, and you're still going to get knocked out by Mario Pinto. And I get that Vitor's stock has fallen at a rate that we have not seen since Blockbuster in 2005, but he's still good. Like, Vitor Petrino's still a good fighter. Is he the animal that we thought he was? No, probably not. Is he better than Austen Lane? Yeah. Yeah, no, he for sure is. This is a move to heavyweight. I think that might actually help his chin. This is kind of a quick turnaround from that knockout, but as you all know, cutting a ton of weight is not great for your chin. The more weight you cut, the more susceptible you are to being knocked out. So maybe not cutting weight and just being who he is physically will help the chin out. I think Vitor can outstrike Austen. I think Vitor can outgrapple Austen if he needs to. The cardio is the one and only thing I might worry about here if he doesn't get Austen out of there earlier, but Vitor is going to be the pick, and I actually think he's okay to bet on here. And if you also want to unlock all the bets, just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. We talked about the Fight Simulator earlier. We also have a bunch of bets and a bunch of other tools. And if you unlock it, these are the cards that you will get. It's $10 for an entire month. MONTH, a month. And you're going to get 4 fight cards. You are going to get this card, the UFC Nashville card. You're going to get UFC 318. You're going to get, I should know this. I don't know if the Robert Whittaker Renier de Rider card is Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi, and I apologize to anybody in that part of the world for my confusion here. I don't know which one that is. But either way, that's a very good fight card. Then we have the Amir Albazi Tatsuro Taira fight card as well. Both of them looking to get back on track. All 4 of these fight cards, you will get every pick, every bet, every tool for all of them. That's $2.50 an event. What are you doing? WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. Check. There's no tiers, no upsell, no bullshit. Everything. One package, $10. Then we have another insanely overpriced, but confident favorite on this card. We have Fatima Kline taking on Melissa Martinez. Fatima Kline's a pressure grappler. She is very dangerous on the ground. She's pretty loose striking in that style. I hate it's like skinny, lurchy style, but she's pretty loose. She bounces on her toes. She plots forward. When that distance is close, she will fire a right hand and then shoot a takedown. On the ground, immediately starts working with strikes. The second you cover up, she's going to scramble, try to snatch up a neck or make something happen. She's got a ton of cardio. The takedowns are solid, and she's coming off the finish win over Victoria Dudikova. She's taking on Melissa Martinez. Melissa Martinez is a scrappy little thing. 5'6", versus 6'2" Fatima Kline. Obviously, that's a typo. Fatima's not 6'2". But Melissa Martinez is a tiny little engine that could. She's small. She's tough. She's got a decent amount of power. She can knock a good amount of people out in this weight class. She's an active striker, good enough footwork. Takedown defense is pretty good. Her grappling isn't only takedown defense, though. She's got solid trips and uchimatas offensively against the cage. If she does get taken down, that's kind of it. Off her back, she doesn't have a lot of jiu-jitsu. She'll try to create scrambles, but it's not great. She is coming off that win over Alice Ardeline, where she ran backwards most of the fight, but she did land what should have been a fight-ending kick to the gut. The referee thought it was a low blow, which kind of saved Alice there. But Melissa Martinez is tough. Doesn't make this breakdown hard. This is a pretty easy breakdown. Fatima dominates this fight. I think she avoids a random haymaker from Melissa Martinez. I think she gets it to the ground early. And on the ground, these two women are not the same. They're not even in the same stratosphere. Fatima wins, and this could be a rare lady under where Fatima finds a finish, I don't know, first, second round, something like that. Then we have Lauren Murphy coming back. Took a little time off. 2 years away, did the modeling circuit here in Texas, and she's taking on Eduarda Moura. Lauren Murphy is a grinder. She is gritty. She is tough. She is incredible in like just her willingness to move forward and her sheer determination. She is not athletic. She is not powerful. She's not fast, but she is a workhorse who will put in the time, who will move forward, who will train her ass off, and will just grind. That sheer will to win has won her plenty of fights and even earned her a title shot. She is coming off that decision loss to Jessica Andrade, where she took the absolute beating of her life. She's taking on Eduarda Moura. Eduarda Moura is a grappler. She's got solid takedowns, good submissions. She's aggressive with her grappling. She wastes absolutely no time coming across that cage. She wastes no time initiating a takedown and working. Her striking is a bit sloppy, but like so many others, it is just there to set up the takedowns. She's coming off that win over Veronica Hardy where she wasn't desperate for the takedowns, but she got the takedowns when she went for them. Lauren Murphy is old. She's not even the oldest person on this card. We have 3 different fighters on this card that are 40 or older, and Lauren Murphy's right smack there in the middle. She's old. She's 41 years old. She's coming off a 2-year layoff, and she was just never that good. She was tough as shit. She worked her way to a title fight. But the 4 wins that she had that got her to that title fight are over people that are no longer in the UFC. Lauren Murphy is a bully. She can't win if she's not able to be a bully. And I don't see her bullying here. Eduarda isn't as small as most of the opponents. Eduarda also likes to push people around. Eduarda's going to be the pick here, but I would be careful because lady underdogs have been cashing slips lately. But Eduarda Moura is going to be the pick here. Lauren Murphy is just tough, and we're going to see that here. We're just going to see a tough older woman just sort of grind and take a little bit of a beating, and you're going to see the speed and the athleticism difference between these two, and that's how Eduarda is going to win. Guys, if you want $50, I will send you $50. We have a whole bunch of sportsbook partners. If you go to wewantpicks.com/bets and you sign up with any one of those sportsbook partners, we send you $50. You're going to use the link. You're going to sign up. You're going to make a deposit, and they're going to pay me a one-time commission. Then I'm going to slice off some of that money and give you a one-time payment of $50. You wash my hands, I will wash yours. And actually, no, it's not we wash each other's hands. Is it we wash each other's hands? Let's just scratch each other's backs. I don't know why I'm touching your hands. I'd rather touch your back over your shirt. $50. wewantpicks.com/bets. Don't forget to check out all of the tools we offer on the website. I know people get sucked into like, just give me the bets. I just want copy-paste bets. But I know there's a lot of you out there that like to do your own research, like to use the tools, like to use the information. You want to hear what we have to say, but hey, I get that's a cool bet. I love to see Bet Sam's bets and Jacob's bets and Angelo's bets. Let me just double check on my own. And if you want to, we have a whole bunch of tools on the website. One of them is the fight simulator I mentioned earlier. It simulates fights 100,000 times, and then it gives you not only the outputs of winners and losers, but also each individual stat along the way. We also have a tape index for those of you who like to do your own tape study and watch the fights. Instead of going to Fight Pass and skirting around trying to find these fights on what is the most poorly designed app I've ever experienced, we've got it all lined up for you in the tape index. You select whatever fight card you're trying to do research for, then you select your fighter. You'll see their full fight history with details, and if there's a little red play button, you click that play button, video pops up, and you are off to the races. We also have a DraftKings optimizer. This will just build DraftKings fantasy lineups for you with a couple clicks of the button. It includes the industry-first beginner mode. I know some of you have never used an optimizer and might be a little intimidating when you see like ownership projections and minimum exposure, maximum exposure, and what all of that means. So instead of expecting you to use that, we coded from scratch a different way to do things where it just asks you logical questions like who are your most confident underdogs, who are your most confident favorites, any fighters you don't like at all. And then you answer some of those questions and it will build the DraftKings fantasy lineups for you. All of those and a million other things that we have on the website are available right now. And it's not just for one card. If you go to wewantpicks.com and you unlock everything I mentioned, you'll get it all for 4 cards because it's for an entire month. It is $10 for an entire month. You'll get UFC 318. You'll get this UFC Nashville card. You get the Amir Albazi fight card. You get the Robert Whittaker fight card. Every pick, every bet, every tool. No upsell, no cross-sell, no tiers, nothing. It's $10 flat, and you get everything instantly on the spot. wewantpicks.com. UFC 318 is a vlog. I just mentioned I flew in today from UFC 317. Today's Saturday. The fights haven't even happened yet, but I've got a lot going on tomorrow with family in town. I've been filming a vlog. I met about 100 of you in Las Vegas, and most of you, not most actually, not even close to most, some of you, we did a little selfie video where I asked you who you think wins the main event, and we did that throughout the day, whether it was at UFC X, in the hotel lobby, at the weigh-ins, at the press conference, and that will be in the UFC 317 vlog, which may or may not be out by the time you're watching this. Actually, what am I talking about? It is out by the time you're watching this. I'll be doing the exact same thing for UFC 318. I will be filming a vlog. As part of the vlog, we open up mail. We read letters.
And if you want to send something for us to open or read, the address is We Want Picks, P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. If you have a small business, you want us to shout it out, send it over. You support us. We support you. Happy to do it. P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. Let's jump into this main card. As I mentioned, this might get a little squirrely, right? This fight order might go a million different directions. But as of right now, we got Kennedy Njokuani taking on Valter Walker in the main card opener. Kennedy Njokuani is a pretty big guy for this weight class. He's long, he's powerful, he's got solid takedown defense. He can be a little gun shy at times, sort of take his time, doesn't fully commit. Typically pretty durable, but somewhat unreliable. This is his third fight at heavyweight, and this weight class seems to be suiting him really well. He's coming off back-to-back knockout wins, the most recent one over Lucas Brzeski. He's taking on Valter Walker. Valter Walker, as you know, Johnny Walker's brother, and like Johnny, pretty big dude. He's 6'6". He is kind of in good shape. We broke him down in his first UFC fight, looked like a bag of jello. Now, he's slimmed down, looking a little better. Now he's 6'6", starting to fill out a little bit. And it doesn't look like a lazy heavyweight. It looks like a guy that is a large frame gentleman that is putting in the time and the effort. Like Johnny, he's tall. Unlike Johnny, he's a wrestler. Valter Walker spent the majority of his life in Russia. And he fights like a Russian wrestler. He comes forward, he'll strike for a little bit, immediately starts shooting takedowns. He will grind, he will wrestle, he will not stop. On the ground, he has phenomenal submissions. He's coming off back-to-back heel hook wins. I think he's the only heavyweight ever, or maybe even the only fighter ever, to get 2 heel hook victories in a row. And he's got that full body transformation, so good for Valter Walker. I fully understand the concern that people have for Valter, especially, as I mentioned, after his UFC debut, where he just looked like you cut open a pillow, poured the stuffing in a garbage bag, and just said, there you go, Johnny Walker's brother. But I think he wins this fight. His physical transformation from bag of jello to actual fighter has been spectacular. And we've seen it. We've seen the results. If he gets a takedown here, I don't think this fight is even close. If Kennedy was more active on the feet and if he was a killer and if he just really got after people and lit them up and made them pay, I would be a little less confident in Valter. But that's not Kennedy. He's kind of a little gun-shy, a little hesitant. And I think if Valter can come in, avoid a big shot, get Kennedy against the cage, get to the legs, maybe separate, shoot a clean open mat takedown, I think Valter can get this to the ground and can win this fight. I am trusting Valter to be in shape. Okay, if he shows up and he's sloppy again out of nowhere, or maybe he ran out of Ozempic, you don't blame me, okay? I'm going off what I see on Instagram and what we saw in his last fight. And what we saw in his last fight was a guy that was in shape, did good things on the ground. Then we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Gabriel Bonfim. Unfortunately for Stephen Thompson, he is in the we're going to use you to build up the next generation era of his career. He's officially the oldest fighter on this card. He is 42 years old. He's one of my favorite fighters. I imagine he's one of yours too. Who doesn't like Wonderboy? I can see you being like, well, he's not my favorite, but I like him. Yeah, all right. We all like, how do you not like Wonderboy? He's nice as shit. His fights are like, I'm going to say tense. They're not always exciting because he's got that karate style, but they're tense because you're just waiting for something to happen. I even have his hair dye. If you ever see me do an office tour of the room I'm in now, I have a box of his hair dye up there on a shelf. He is so good looking and has such great hair. They use his rights to sell hair dye. Anyway, Wonderboy Thompson, as you all know, has that incredible karate style, that long base. He pops in, he pops out. He's got decent power, mostly because of the timing. And up until his last fight, he hasn't really looked his age. He's 42 years old. He was beating Buckley in his last fight, but then he got caught real bad in the third round and got put out. He's taking on Gabriel Bonfim. Gabriel Bonfim's a pretty solid striker, high-level boxing credentials, good BJJ. He's well-rounded overall, and despite being a pretty patient guy, he's only been to one decision in 18 fights. And I know those sentences contradict each other, but Bonfim doesn't just come in like a bat out of hell. He happens to be very, very dangerous, but what he's doing is pretty calculated. Sometimes he'll wait for the right moment, like in his last fight. Chaos Williams overcommitted on a couple of strikes. Gabriel lowers his level, shot right underneath it, and then got Chaos out of there. Wonderboy does a really good job frustrating people. He's got that footwork, the range. It's just, karate style is very tricky, and he gets people out of their striking cadence. He throws people off. He gets them out of their rhythm. People struggle with that range and the footwork, but if you literally just pressure him forward, if you just get after him, you can beat him. And I think Bonfim will early on try to play that range game, realize it's frustrating as shit, and I think he just gets after Steven. I am going to pick Bonfim here. I hate it because I love Wonder Boy, but the reality is, I think Bonfim's going to win. I think Gabriel's going to quickly turn into a wrestler. I think he's going to get tagged up a few times at distance, swing and miss a few times. I think he probably sees that Wonder Boy was just knocked out. He's going to try to get a knockout. I don't think he gets it. I think he turns into a wrestler, and I think Bonfim's just going to get a whole bunch of takedowns here. And as we all know, as good of a striker as Wonder Boy is, that he just never got the takedown defense to match his striking skills. So Bonfim's going to be the pick. I think the odds are honestly pretty appropriate for the matchup we have here. Then we have Chris Curtis taking on Max Griffin. A battle of sort of aging vets that still have a little juice left in their career. Chris Curtis, a very clean counter striker, as we all know. At one point, he had the highest takedown defense in the middleweight division, which is astonishing because most people do try to take him down because he's a good striker, and he's not a middleweight. He spent his entire career at welterweight. Then when he came into the UFC on short notice, he did that at middleweight, and he had so much success, he just stayed there. A couple of early knockouts in a row, some great counter hooks. Chris Curtis, a pretty thick guy. He's got good power in his hands, very good counter striking. He's always moving that upper body, kind of a hard guy to hit. Great takedown defense. He is coming off, though, that last second finish loss to Roman Kopylov at UFC Vegas 101. The reality is, when we were there, Jacob and I, Chris Curtis, when we were in the arena, looked like he might win that fight. It looked like he was getting the better of some exchanges. It looked like he was going to win that fight. And then obviously he got finished in the third. Now, even if the referee didn't call it off, if the referee just let Chris survive, which he protested instantly, and you probably could have let him survive, he was going to lose because I did recheck the scorecards and it was 1-1 going into the third. And obviously that third round was not going to go to him. And Roman was going to get that third round by almost finishing him. But it did feel in the arena like Chris Curtis was going to win a decision. It just didn't work out that way. Another little fun fact, I believe Jacob had a bet on Roman, and Jacob was like yelling instructions to Roman, like, stop boxing with this guy. Use your kicks. And Chris Curtis literally turned around, looked at us, mostly Jacob, and said, stop helping him. Pretty funny exchange. Chris Curtis seems like a really good dude. And he probably gets back in the win column here. He's taking on 39-year-old Max Griffin. Max Griffin does have some decent striking, good power, a bunch of knockouts. He has 8 knockdowns in the UFC. He famously almost knocked Ramiz Brahimai's ear clean off his head. We're going on 4 or 5 years from when that happened, but go look that up. It was disgusting. He's also a solid grappler. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight. He's coming off that submission loss, though, to Michael Chiesa. As I mentioned, this is at welterweight. Chris is a welterweight. Now, he spent the majority of his career there, went up to middleweight. He's been at middleweight for about 3-4 years now. He's getting older. I don't quite know what we're going to get from a Chris Curtis who was just knocked out at 37 years old, cutting 15 pounds. Or losing, not because it's not a cut at this point. He's losing 15 pounds. I don't know what that means for his chin. There's so many questions here, so I'm going to be a little hesitant with bets. I am going to pick Chris. I think he's just the better striker between the two. And if Chris at welterweight was able to keep the hooks there, keep the counter striking there, keep the power, if Chris is able to do all of those things and he doesn't lose his chin from the additional weight cut, Chris is going to be very easy money here. But I am a little nervous about a guy who was just rocked real bad. You want to say he wasn't knocked out? Fine. At the very least, he was almost knocked out at 37 years old going down in weight. So I'm going to be hesitant with bets here, but I am picking Chris Curtis to win. Then we have the tape index. I mentioned this before. For those of you who like to do your own tape study, instead of trying to find these freaking videos, which is a nightmare, even if you are on the Fight Pass website right now and you are trying to find specific fights, I promise you it is a nightmare. That is the most poorly designed app ever. It is insane. This is a multi-billion-dollar organization, and they have this insane, ridiculous, convoluted bullshit that prioritizes visuals over navigation. It makes no sense whatsoever. So if you need a hand, and if you value your time, I assume you make more than $10 in a month. Let's say you do tape study on every fight card, 4 fight cards in a month. And I'm not factoring in the amount of time to watch the actual fights, but just to find them. Let's say it takes you 15 minutes a week to find the fights, right? 12 fights, a little more than a minute. It takes you 15 minutes to find the fights, hit play, start watching. Well, 15 times 4, that's an hour. And if you make more than $10 an hour, I save you money. Just go to WeWantPicks.com. Included in that package is the tape index. In all seriousness, it's a tape index. It lines everything up for you, eliminates any question, any bullshit, any research, navigation, or any of that. All you do is go to Tools, click on Tape Index, then select your event. This is built out for the future. You want to start researching 318? Great. Select UFC 318, then select your fighter. You will see the full fight history, which is one of the screenshots on the screen here. You can click on that. It'll expand. You'll see the details, what the closing odds were for that fight, how many rounds it was scheduled for, how the fight ended, all that information. And if there's a red play button, just click the play button. Video pops up. You're good to go. Check out the tape index at WeWantPicks.com. Then we have the featured fight of the evening. We have Jake Matthews taking on Chidi Njokuani. This is a razor-thin line. And we're a little bit ways out from these fights, so I don't know if this line's going to flip or what's going to happen here, because I was surprised to see that Jake Matthews is technically the underdog here at plus 100. And spoiler alert, I'm going to go ahead and pick him. Jake Matthews is a well-rounded guy. He's got good wrestling. He's got good grappling, good variety of strikes. He works angles really well. He has no problem mixing up the body shots, then going to the head. He does average a little more than 1 takedown per fight. He doesn't wrestle nearly as much as you want him to, but he does have those skills. The striking differential is pretty solid. If you reduce it down here, it's basically 3-2. And he's got some good power in his hands. He's coming off that decision win over Francisco Prado, where Francisco was probably a little too small for that matchup. And I understand why people are on the Chidi side, because he is big as shit at this weight class. This is welterweight. Chidi is 6'3". Chidi is fast. Chidi hits hard. Chidi's a great striker. The speed is incredible. And he's not just a high volume guy. Like, he's sticking moves really well. His feet are never in the same place for very long. People have a hard time getting to him, getting inside that range. But if you are able to get inside the range, you're able to get past the reach, and you can get to his legs, you could have some success with takedowns. He's coming off that knockout win over Eliza Zaleski, where he himself was knocked around. He was rocked. He wasn't technically knocked down, at least not according to the stats, but he was rocked early. This is one of the toughest fights on this card to predict, because I do like Chidi a lot. He is long, he's fast, he uses all those techniques really well. But we're seeing him getting rocked. And watching him get rocked in his last fight makes me think that his chin could be slipping a little bit. He is 36 years old. This guy cuts an insane amount of weight. It makes no sense that he makes weight here. And now he's fighting somebody like Jake Matthews at only 30 years old. Jake Matthews, who's insanely durable. Jake Matthews, who has the wrestling upside. I got to go Jake Matthews here. He's going to be the pick. I'm probably going to have some bets on him. Let me see how UFC 317 goes. I mentioned I'm filming this before 317. Let's see how that goes. And then I'll probably have some money on Matthews here before. I imagine he's going to become the favorite. So I'll probably have some money on him before he becomes a favorite. If you don't have our app, just search We Want Picks in the App Store. Make sure notifications are on so that when I do place that bet, you will be notified. Then we have what is booked right now as the co-main event. I don't know if this is actually the co-main event. Here's the problem. The UFC website is the most inaccurate. Honestly, I've been railroading Fight Pass and now the UFC website. It seems like their entire online presence is kind of dog shit. Tapology is the most accurate for fights on a card. The order is not always correct, but the fights on a card are accurate. The UFC website is pretty accurate for order, but it's missing, we were 4 days out from UFC 317, International Fight Week, 4 days out. And there were only 8 fights listed on their website. It's ridiculous. So I don't know if this is the co-main event. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. We're going to break it down all the same. We got Calvin Kattar taking on Steve Garcia. And I'm telling you right now, this is a close fight and a tough fight to pick. I fully understand Steve Garcia is surging right now with 5 knockouts in a row. But Calvin Kattar is not a bum. He's a good, accurate boxer. He's not the most dangerous guy, but he is busy. He has had stoppages in the past from the volume, from the accuracy. His hands are always where they're supposed to be. He cuts angles pretty well. His takedown defense is solid at 77%. He did just defend 8 of Yusuf Zalal's takedown attempts in his last fight, and he very clearly won that 3rd round when Yusuf was running around in circles. Now, On the other side of that octagon is going to be the very dangerous Steve Garcia. Steve's made a name for himself with his boxing in his hands. He has a 5-fight knockout win streak, which has got to be one of the longest active knockout streaks in this division. Well, first of all, definitely the longest active knockout streak in the division. I imagine one of the longer winning streaks in this division as well, especially inside the UFC. His striking is solid. He's got good movement, big power, decent speed. He's not afraid to mix it up, but he can also grapple. He can come forward. He can get takedowns. If you run through that fight history, he's used his grappling more than one time, but we haven't seen a lot of it lately because he's been putting people out. Calvin Kattar has not won a fight in 3 years. Calvin Kattar is not young at 37 years old. Calvin Kattar is also not Kyle Nelson, not Sang-Woo Choi, and not anybody else that Steve Garcia recently knocked out. Steve has been on a tear lately, but it's definitely against a different tier of fighter. I can't outright pick a 37-year-old in Calvin Kattar, but man, this is tricky. What I can do is point out that this fight is going to be a lot closer than people think. If Steve Garcia thinks he's going to come in here and get a quick knockout, I don't see that happening. Calvin Kattar is insanely durable. He has never been knocked out. And if you're lazy as shit, and we're going to find out about a couple people in the comments. We're going to find out who's lazy, and we're going to find out who doesn't watch the whole video. There will be comments on this video after I said Calvin's never been knocked out that will say, yes, he has. Arnold Allen knocked him out. Because that's what Tapology says. No, the fuck he didn't. Calvin Kattar blew his knee out in that fight. It was a TKO because of an injury. He was not knocked out. So now Steve Garcia has to win this fight over the course of 15 full minutes. We saw Youssef Zalal struggle, and Youssef Zalal is a very well-rounded guy, very good, patient outside striker. If Steve Garcia gets in there and just tries to bang it out in the pocket, Calvin might have some success. I'm going to pick Steve, okay? But I think the best play here, and what might be at the same odds, is the over on rounds. And if it's a 1.5 round, I think the over on 1.5 rounds is chef's kiss. And we might get a 1.5 round because of Steve's recent success. But if they're smart and they'll see how insanely durable Calvin is, we won't get that. But Steve Garcia is going to be the pick. This might be fool's gold. And then we have the main event of the evening, all-time knockout king Derrick Lewis taking on Taliesin Teixeira. Derrick Lewis, much like Wonder Boy, and a lot of the other old fighters on this card, is in the era of his career where they are going to use him to build up young stars. And it has to be done. How else are they going to get somebody like Taliesin the exposure he needs, right? He needs to fight a big name in this sport. Otherwise, we don't get eyes on him, or he just knocks out Justin Tafa on a random undercard, and then we forget about it and move on with our lives. But if he's the main event, and they promo it, and they hype it, and then he comes in here and he finishes Derrick Lewis, well, then they have that highlight they can use forever. I don't need to explain marketing to you, but it is unfortunate that Derrick Lewis is now at that point in his career where they're like, all right, well, you're not going to do anything meaningful, so here's a bunch of giant young killers. Derrick Lewis, as I mentioned, all-time KO king. It's not a made-up stat. He quite literally has more knockouts than anybody else in the history of the UFC. He is the most single-threaded fighter we have ever seen. He comes forward, he barely does anything, and then he finds a big punch. He is not a high-volume guy. He lands 2.48 significant strikes per minute. I don't think you know how insanely low that is, especially for a guy who only strikes. Derrick Lewis is either losing the striking exchanges and then finds a knockout, or is doing nothing and then finds a knockout. You do need to worry about that power, because even at the advanced age, it is still there. Power is the last thing that goes as you start to age out. He's taking on Taliesin Teixeira. This guy is tremendous. He's 6'8". He's been running through people. If you do your tape study and just take it at face value, you're going to be like, this guy's an 8-0 and he's just destroying people. This is incredible. But then if you dig a little deeper, he has fought pretty low level of competition. One of his opponents is 4-16. Another one has wins under modified rules, which, what the hell is that? So while he is coming off a big knockout win in his UFC debut against Justin Tafa, who's not nobody, this is certainly a massive test for Taliesin. It might be too much too soon. Remember when they took Shamil Gaziev, that fucking handsome, beautiful man,
threw him in a main event after one UFC win and he just got obliterated. This could be that. It could be. But Derek Lewis is probably too low volume. And he's a funny guy to break down because he is the all-time knockout king, but he's actually boring. Derek Lewis is a pretty boring fighter. He kind of loafs around waiting to land massive strikes. When he lands, we celebrate. But until then, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And this could be one of those fights because Taliesin is a young guy getting his first main event. It's not crazy that Taliesin is just going to be a little too afraid to engage early. He stays on the outside. He uses the reach to point fight. Pick-wise, I got to go with the dude who is 15 years younger. I have to go with the larger guy. I have to go with the busier fighter. I have to go with Taliesin. But the dude only has 8 fights. He only has 8 fights. If that doesn't look like a trap, I don't know what is. So I'm going to leave this alone. Let me be your voice of reason. You don't need to bet on every fight, let alone random heavyweight fights against a guy that throws almost no punches, but when he does, it's the kiss of death, versus a young kid who only has 8 fights in his career, and one of his opponents has a 4-16 record. Taliesin Teixeira is the pick. Don't do anything with that information. Do not do a single thing. But what you should do is download our app. The app is 100% free. Just go to the App Store, search We Want Picks, download the app, make sure push notifications are turned on because you will get a push notification when we place our bets so you can see them before the lines take off in one direction or another. Inside the app, you'll have access to everything that we do, including the fight simulator, which simulates fights 100,000 times, including the tape index, which lines up every single fight on every fight card, both this week and for the future, so you can do the tape study with your own eyes. The brand new optimizer is available inside of the app as well, and this includes the beginner mode. So if you don't know what a DraftKings optimizer is, it's okay. Let us lead you to water. It'll ask you some logical questions about who you think wins, who you think loses. And then it'll build the lineups for you. And then when you get comfortable, you can just go to the standard mode. If you've already used an optimizer, use the standard mode. It has all the features and functionality that you can expect from a normal optimizer. Then we have a data analyzer. This is your one-stop shop for research. Inside of this is the tape study. Inside of this tool, the videos will pop up and you can watch them. But what it does is you pick your event. Again, this is built out for the future. Once you pick your event, you pick your fighter. It'll line up all the meaningful stats for your fighter and their opponent. Then you can work your way down. You can stack filters. You can say, how many significant strikes does Islam land on average? Okay, now let me see how many does he land to the head. Okay, how many does he land to the head in wins? And that's a weird example, but you get the point. You can continue to add filter to really deep dive these stats. So if you care about stats, great. If you don't really care about stats, you can use that information, take it to your sports book, and then do the over or under on strike lines or takedown lines. The data analyzer, the optimizer, the line movement tracker, the prop hunter, and everybody else is available right now inside the app and on the website. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. You unlock every bit of it instantly. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everybody that I met at UFC 317. I appreciate everybody who just watches the videos quietly in the background. You all mean the world to me. You have changed my life. I'm trying to change yours, both just with entertainment, but also with quite literally the best service on the planet. We could have stopped adding to premium 3 years ago and it would still be a phenomenal value. But here we are. Every month, a new feature, a new refinement, a new tool, new data. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. Premium membership at $10 is the only way that I can truly show you my appreciation. Thank you all very, very much. Good luck on this fight card.